So this is the second time I'm making this video because first time I made it, I don't know why, it just magically deleted. So yeah, this video is about, I've been seeing a lot of MGTOW stuff that I'm finding kind of disconcerting, I guess. So one of the things that's coming up is, what is a MGTOW, like, again, and I made a video on this already, but here I am having to talk about it again because I'm noticing there's all these videos coming out with a MGTOW label, and they're not actually like the, I guess the way to put it would be, I don't mind like so much of it. I've looked at Elliot Hulse and he's using the MGTOW label, but he's not. He's more or less paying lip service. He's not actually promoting like a MGTOW concept or something, or his contribution to the MGTOW community is very light. I would say, like, he's he's broadening exposure, which I really appreciate. I think it's cool. But I don't think that he's commenting much, you know. And so there's that, but then there's a few others that, like LFA, like he did some, he was actually promoting unicorns. No, there's no fucking unicorns. They don't exist. So, but then there's another one. I mean, there's literally a video kind of about this topic, talking about how he views MGTOW as sort of passing a book around. It's not something you are. It's more like we're passing a book around and writing things in it. And, well, on some level, I like that idea, and I appreciate a lot of this guy's content. I forgot what he's called, but he has some good content, and I think he's almost certainly truly MGTOW. But, he called the video, like, No True Scotsman, No True MGTOW, or something like that. Like, but in a previous video, and I stand by this, it isn't just what you're promoting. It's what you're doing that matters. He says, like, you know, oh, you could, you know, sort of be MGTOW even if you're marrying a feminist, as long as you're not saying that that's good advice. And I basically disagree with that. The reason is, if you're in the process of getting married or living with a woman, it's exactly like a long time ago. There's like literal tradcons, traditional conservatives. This is why it's important. Co-opting MGTOW in order to pull men back to the plantation. You know, they're saying, and this reliably happens with people who, with tradcons who are claiming to be MGTOWs and giving advice. They just toxify and spread bad ideas. They start lying and promoting pro-gynocentrism, and they do it all under this umbrella of MGTOW, and it's completely toxic. And so I think that it's important to basically more or less point and kick out, you know, and say, you know, if you're not a fucking MGTOW, you're not. If you don't have that purity of lifestyle, you're likely not a MGTOW. You're not, and at best you can promote some. You can promote MGTOW content, but I think a MGTOW is a thing. It's not just what. So, the other thing that this person was mentioning is what is MGTOW doing, and you know, what are we up to? Are we just passing around a book? And I wanted to just sort of lay it out there that I really think that MGTOW has a purpose, and that for me, I have a very clear vision of what that purpose is, and it's to make MGTOW normal public discourse. That we want to strip the mask away, that it's important that eventually it is casual talk in a workplace, with your friends, at a party, it doesn't matter, that people can openly say what MGTOWs say freely on the internet with images covering their face. So it's a MGTOW future necessarily entails that nobody has to hide behind images anymore to tell the truth. And that's what I think is so important here, is that we're looking at a movement that is being suppressed. It's exactly like what the church did, where, and I've related it to dogma before, you know, love, the doctrine of love, like marriage and this whole, you know, find a wife based on love, and you know, you're in love, and so you do the family thing. And I'm not anti-family, I'm not anti-kid, but I am pro-truth. Like, we should be telling the truth about this entire scenario. And I don't think that love is actually the thing that's keeping her here. It's certainly not the thing that's keeping her in a family. And that it's important to recognize and understand the nature of the reality. And so what I'm saying is that the future of MGTOW must necessarily include the demasking of every MGTOW. And I'm not saying that we have to do that right now or tomorrow or in a year or in 10 years, because the reality is there's many men who have to hide behind images for the same reason that there's still atheists in the pulpit who are preaching a doctrine that they don't believe in anymore. They just don't believe in it, but they're telling all these people. And that's what I see with MGTOW. It's like some of us have to hide, and it's necessary right now, but the future must necessarily include the part where we're able to talk freely. So you know, that's sort of my my look at some of the recent MGTOW content popping up. And I just want to put that seed out there that we have a future, and we should be thinking about where we're going, because it's you've got to have something in mind about this. And there's some people who don't care, you know, and I respect that. In some way, just going your own way is enough. But I mean, if we're talking about a progressive movement within MGTOW, it very much entails taking over the world. I mean, that sounds funny, but genuinely, I think that shifting the narrative is going to be something that every MGTOW would be interested in, especially with respect to future generations of humans growing up in a world that isn't dominated by gynocentrism, that isn't suppressing men by force of dogma and societal constraints. We want a world where you can walk into any room, and if there's other men, you can talk MGTOW, and people aren't going to attack you and say you're a sexist. We're genuinely just trying to accurately assess, evaluate, designate, classify reality, and have a reality-based conversation. That's what MGTOW is about in many ways. Same as atheism, same as anything that is just trying to examine the world around us and put it into words without the influence of some type of doctrine or dogma. In this case, I would say that the primary culprit is the doctrine of love, of female love. They just aren't capable. It's an illusion. It's a game that they play, this love thing, and it's fleeting. It's just not the same as the way that men do it. I think that's that's interesting. So you know, PUA, a long time ago, PUA was super creepy, and it was like what was his name? Mystery. Well, in the mystery days, people really looked at PUA like it was super creepy, but now you can see like mainstream ads of fuck, what's his name? Julian. Julian, and he's like literally like I've seen him on YouTube ads, you know. I think it's called Transformation or something like that. But it's this like proactive, positive movement that is really centered around the truth, the truth about interaction between men and sexual interaction between men and women, and it's not seedy, it's not dark, it's not creepy, it's just the truth, and it's great, and that's what I want to see from MGTOW. Eventually, you know, I don't want to have this stigma. I want to interact in a world that is, I mean, because right now I feel like there's undercover agents for gynocentrism, the femocracy, conspiring behind the scenes when you speak about MGTOW to destroy your life, and that's why so many MGTOWs cover their face in videos, and we have to root out this evil in the exact same way with atheism, with meat eating also, because I mean, this is the reality in is that if you run all of the programs to their logical end and consistency, you land on veganism, you land on atheism, whether it's agnosticism or not, you land on MGTOW because you see something that isn't quite right about the reality we've been brainwashed into. You know, this is all everything that I see and want for my life. It has ultimately been centered around digging myself out of the hell of the matrix that I landed in, and having the justification to rule the world. You know, I want to. I don't really feel like I have a good place in the world set up for me unless I actually have the right to rule it. And if you're not vegan, you have and some of this is probably going to trigger some people, but actually you might just agree. Many meat eaters think it's even virtuous to not eat animals in a way, because you're going above and beyond what actually is a moral obligation and doing something extra nice for animals. So from a virtuous position, I actually just look at meat eating as suboptimal ethics. Is sort of where I'm coming from. And if you have suboptimal ethics, in no way should you be looked to as a leader in a serious high level prominent leadership role. Obviously someone with suboptimal ethics can be a good leader in different in a different kind of area. You know, I mean, you might actually be better off in business if your ethics are suboptimal. But that doesn't, on a bigger, more large look, bigger picture, I think suboptimal ethics, even in a business context, are actually bad. And you also can't tell the future. It's like, I think a good example of this is the meat and dairy industry, especially the dairy industry. If you don't know, I think it was in 2017. The dairy industry saw a 10% drop in profits And this was the biggest year for veganism. Vegan foods went up 50%. 50%. But people started buying vegan foods 50% more in 2017, and dairy dropped its profits 10%. Those are statistically significant by a large degree. I mean, can you imagine? The dairy industry is fucking rich. 10%? I mean, you can understand 1 point, 2 points, or something like that, but 10%? That's massive. They got hit hard, and this is exactly what I see in the future happening. Meat and dairy, it doesn't, and eggs, it doesn't matter. You can fight the tide all you want, but at the end of the day, the more people understand ethics, these industries will die out, and they are built on having suboptimal ethics. So these are companies that people will eventually, they're going to take their money out of, because why would I support an unethical business, especially with foods coming? And here's another example: Beyond Meat. Leonardo DiCaprio supporting it, Bill Gates supporting it. These are people dumping, these are billionaires, millionaires, dumping massive funds into plant-based foods, and the people will follow suit. It is inevitable. So, ethics are important for leadership, ethics are important for business, ethics are important for everything, and yes, veganism is superior ethics. I'm not even gonna apologize for it, that's just the truth. So, same with MGTOW. It's a superior view to the brainwashing we were given about women at birth. We're just looking at the truth and being honest about the assessment around us. So, the future of MGTOW is really making this a public domain. And so I hope that me putting my face out here is eventually going to make a big change, and we'll start to see more and more acceptance for this kind of thing. Yeah. Thought I had some, like, snappy little thing to say. See you next time.